I think I got this. I think I got this. You know how they always say you should do things that take you out of your comfort zone? Well, this is definitely one of them for me. Riding in traffic, bicycle, right next to speeding cars, definitely takes me out of my comfort zone a little bit. So this is either gonna be one of the greatest activities that I've ever partake that I ever did, or I might just get hit by a car and that'll be it. So either way, let's go. Joking. I've been back from that bike ride for 2 days now, and those were 2 days full of recovery because that 4-hour bike ride completely trashed my body. And so when I first got back, yeah, sitting down was a painful affair. You could only imagine why. But I wanted to touch base on some of the things that I learned, some of the things that I experienced on this bike ride that took me way out of the city central and out to the beach side of Riga. And so one of the first things I want to cover is the bicycle that I used, just to give you guys context of what I had to deal with for those 4 hours. And in hindsight, I believe this bike is more of a prop for this Airbnb and the vibe that it gives, this very hipster vibe. And I use the word hipster because that style of bike is starting to become popular again because the hipster crowd. And let me show you why. Now, the first thing that I noticed, and I kind of knew this might have been a problem when I first started riding it around in here, you might have noticed I was able to pedal backwards and the bike was actually going backwards. And that's because it's a single fixed gear bicycle, meaning that you're always pedaling no matter what. Whether you're going downhill, you can't coast like you would with more advanced bicycles where you could just stop pedaling and the wheels just, and you're just coasting, you're relaxing. Not on this one. On this one, it is mandatory that the pedals continually go around, whether you're going uphill, going downhill. It's a non-stop action. And so that made everything so much more difficult. From going uphill to going downhill, there was no breaks in between. So it was just not a great experience, and I kind of hated life for a little bit. And at one point, me and my friend, we were sitting on a bench, and that is when she looked at my bike and she smiled and started laughing, and she was like, "Holy shit, you have a fixed gear bike." And I said, "Yeah, well, what's the problem?" It was nothing. I didn't even notice it. But on the inside, I was like, fuck yes, it's a fixed gear bike. That's why I've been struggling this entire time. You've been fucking going like 20 miles per hour. I'm over here struggling on this grandfather of a bicycle. And so yeah, that was mistake number one. One thing that I absolutely hated about this. Never again. Why are these bikes coming back into fashion? Again, the hipster crowd, they see this and they just fucking love this shit. I don't know why, but nonetheless, not an enjoyable experience at all. I do not recommend anyone to ever ride a fixed gear bicycle. The second issue that I had was that this seat is a little bit too high. I don't know if you noticed in the first one, I just looked extremely awkward, and after a minute, it felt extremely awkward. And so, FYI, the streets of Riga Latvia aren't the most well paved, And I'm not even talking about the cobblestone streets or anything like that. At that point, this bike would probably fall apart. I'm talking about regular streets. They're just not well paved. There's a few bike lanes that we came across, but I'm talking about the roads. And so I'm already at this awkward position, and the bike is just constantly poof, 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 poof. To give you a better understanding of what I went to, just use your imagination and gentlemen, this is a very, very hard seat. So imagine doing 4 hours of this. Holy shit, was that painful. I would say around the 30-45 minute mark, things got very, very uncomfortable for me. I just had to push through and ended up doing 5 minutes on one cheek, 5 minutes on the other cheek. And then that was 4 hours of just basically alternating cheeks to avoid the pain. And I'm pretty sure I might have busted one of my testicles on this. I don't know, but either way, it was torture. It was torturous. And so again, my friends in the front, she just bought a bike with like 3 different springs back here where she hit a bump, and it's like you could just see the shock absorbers, and that was not the case for my bike. And so I kind of had to tough it out. There was moments where I'm just like, I think I was just getting angry at her and her bike and her 3-speed bike and her comfortable seat. And I was just dying. Eventually, after sitting down and relaxing and a couple days passing, I'm back to 100%, no major damage down there. So yeah, that was 2 things about this bicycle that I learned and did not enjoy very much. So what about the ride itself? What about riding a bicycle in a major city with cars zooming past by you every 2 seconds? Well, this is what I learned. First of all, Riga in the main city center has really good bike lanes. I mean, it is amazing. They did a really great job, and that's why so many people rely on their bicycle to get them from point A to point B. It is a very reasonable option to partake, and of course it's much more affordable than a car and whatnot. This is things that Los Angeles just has not been able to accomplish. I know their infrastructure is all messed up in regards to bike lanes, and again, I see people riding bikes in Los Angeles, and so that just freaks me out, and like I don't understand why they do that. But then you come over here and you get on these bike lanes and you actually feel pretty safe. And I do feel like the drivers might pay a little bit more attention than LA drivers, just because there's so many people at each and every corner that I think it's just in their best interest to pay attention. When I first jumped on one of the bike lanes, it was a little scary, but as I was navigating my way through the main city center, I felt good, and it felt amazing. I got from point A to point B real fast. Now, if I had a better bike, I'm sure the whole experience would be way better, but you know, it is what it is. So yeah, that was one thing that I finally got to experience, and it turned out really well. In the city center, that is. Me and my friend were riding along, and at some point she stops and tells me that this is the farthest that she's ever gone. And I ask why, and she says the following neighborhoods aren't the safest, and so she's never gone further by herself. And so that kind of hit the panic mode for a little bit. Internally, I was just like, damn, really? But I went with it, and we continued, we pushed forward. And it was during this time, more of the countryside, the country roads. They didn't have no bike lanes out in this area, this country area of Riga. And so we are literally riding our bikes on the road with cars just driving right by us, right by me. These big old semi trucks in which you could just hear them coming. They're chugging along, and they're like, I don't know, like 3 feet, 4 feet from basically taking a person's life. So all the fears that I had about, you know, major metropolitan areas, that wasn't the case in the center of Riga. But once you got to that area where it was just a one way going that way, one way going this way, that was a little bit nerve-wracking. I was like, holy shit, I'm probably gonna get hit by one of these cars and my body's gonna end up in a ditch and no one's gonna give a fuck. So that was definitely nerve-wracking. I will say that for sure. And then you had cars coming from the other lane trying to go around some of the slow vehicles. So not only did I have to like worry about the cars that were like speeding up behind me, but I could see cars like just recklessly cutting off other people driving on the oncoming lane, which was my lane in which I was going, and then they would swerve back into their lane to avoid the slow driver. And so I was like, holy shit. And while these cars are zooming past me on both directions, I'm doing the cheek to cheek adjustment, and so every time I did one cheek, I would kind of swerve my bike to that side a little bit, so it brought me that closer to the cars. Oh man, it was intense. We did pass through these little towns that were like, whoa, like these are towns you probably wouldn't see in a lot of these guidebooks. So it was very interesting to be able to witness that, to see that, and yeah, you know, definitely eye-opening in some situations. At one point, we ended up getting to the beach, and this was my friend's first time at this beach, so it was new for the both of us, and she wasn't very impressed with it. She said that it looks like any other beach. She asked me, does this look like LA beaches? And I'm like, not exactly. But, you know, I was new there. I'm experiencing these things. So it was cool in my eyes to see that. That is something that I probably wouldn't have seen on my own. So I'm very grateful to the assistance that I had. Even though she went extremely fast on the bike, and so I had to keep up and hurt myself in doing so. It was cool, it was fun, enjoyed the sun, splashed through the water a little bit, and then it was time to go back. Now at this point, I was 100% sore in certain areas, and just the thought of getting back on my bike did not sit very well with me. That is when I told her, and she agreed, or she told me and I agreed to, we're gonna take the bus about half of the way. So we jumped on the bus, and just, it's incredible some of the things that you can see just taking a bus to certain parts of a city, and the things you see just looking out there. So we crossed a bunch of areas of Riga that again were interesting to look at, things that are so far removed from the city center that I honestly think that 90% of the people, of the tourists that come to Riga will never see that. And so I felt honored and grateful to be able to witness that. Getting to that point was a little bit difficult, but all in all, it was a great experience. Would I do it again? If I had a better bike, if I had like a way better, not even way better, if I had just a decent bike, I probably would do it again, but not with that one. And so ultimately it was good. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed my time with her. I enjoyed my time seeing some of the things that I saw. I enjoyed the adrenaline that was pumping throughout a good amount of that ride based on the traffic that was flying by me and some of the areas that we were in. Ultimately, I got back safe and sound, and a good story to share with you guys along with my book, where I'm gonna go a little bit more in detail of what happened. But yeah, that was my 4-hour bike ride in Riga. Maybe like 3.5, 320, somewhere along that. 4 hours. I chalk it up to 4 hours. Whatever. That's what I wanted to share with you guys. Hope you enjoyed listening to my little story here, and definitely catch you in the next one. Please hit that thumbs up button, that subscribe button, and that little bell button to be notified when the next video drops, and I will catch you in the next one.